Hey guys, what's going on? So since I started this channel, by far the most asked question I get is, where did I get my UI and how did I get it set up and looking so clean? So that's exactly what we're going to go over today. WoW's most popular UI, ElvUI. So I'll be showing you guys how to customize your own profile as well as where to find others that you can import in directly. And if you do want to use mine, I will leave that linked in the description down below so you can always go and download that. I will say though, off of personal experience, no matter how close of a profile that you find to fit all of your needs, there's always going to be small things that you want to tweak, and it's really good to know how to do that. If you guys do appreciate this video though, all I ask is that you like and subscribe. It's completely free on your end, but it means the world to me and it really helps the channel grow. But with that aside, let's just dive right into it. Alright guys, so first thing is installing it. There's this common misconception that you go to CurseForge like all the other add-ons and you type it in and it'll be here, but it's not. It's not actually hosted on CurseForge. It's its own thing. So what you're going to want to do, you can go to Google here and you can just type in ElvUI. And it's going to be this first one. It's called Tuck UI and you're going to click it and it's going to take you to this site here, and what you're going to do is scroll down to where you see the latest version. It'll be right here, so it's directly down below. You're going to click it and it's going to download. Here we go. So once it's downloaded, you're going to get this right here. You're going to click it, it's going to open up and you're going to see this. So what you're going to want to do here is highlight over and get all of it. Go ahead and copy it. Go to your Windows C drive. Go to your programs files. Come on down to World of Warcraft. Go to retail. Go to interface, add-ons, and then you can just paste this right in here. I'm not going to because I have the latest version and no reason to install it again, but that is how you will install ElvUI. So once you do that, when you go to open the game, you're going to be looking at this screen. So once you have it installed and you log into your character, you're going to be looking at this screen. And you can just go ahead and continue through all of this. None of it really matters. We'll be playing around with this later on. And you can hit finished. And here we go. So now we're looking at a plain ElvUI profile. So the way that you open it here, you just hit your escape key and you'll have an option here called ElvUI. So you click it and now you have all of this. So you have all of these different categories here, action bars, bags, all of this good stuff. And then in each of these categories, you have subcategories right here, like buffs and debuffs, action bars, bags, so on and so on. So we're going to start at the very top and work our way down the list. So before we jump into all the different tabs and options and customizing your profile, I did want to show you where you can find other profiles that you can import in directly. That way you can skip all of these steps and just use someone else's if that's something you prefer. So you can go here to Google and we'll type in ElvUI profile. And it's going to be one of these first two options. It's going to be from the WeakAura's website. So you go ahead and click it. And then you will have all of these different options, all these different profiles. And when I first made my profile a really long time ago, this is what I initially did. I went and I found one that I really liked that was close to all the things that I wanted. And as I used it and played with it and found all these little things that I really didn't like or I wanted to tweak, I learned how to do that. And eventually it became the profile I now have. But this is a really great tool. If you really don't have the time to create a whole new profile and tinker with every last little detail, these will get you started and give you a really good template to work with. So what you're going to do is just select one. I'll just select this top one here. So you're going to select it and click this copy import string. Alrighty, so now we're back here in our main screen and you're going to go on this left hand side where you see all these subcolumns and you're going to come down to profiles and then you're going to go right over here to import. Go ahead and click that, control and paste it over and then hit import. So then it's going to ask you to name the profile. I'm just going to name this ElvUI video profile. Hit accept. And as you see here, my entire UI just changed. That's just to show you, you can import literally any profile, and to switch back or to switch through your profiles, you can come back here to profile in the profile section. Come right down here to existing profiles, and then you can go ahead and select whichever one you want. So I'll just pull it back to my original, and there we go. So now we're on the main page again for ElvUI, and we're in the General tab, and the first thing is General in the General tab, and you'll mostly use this to scale out your UI. You can always change that. If you've ever seen people in raid or keys in the party chat or the raid chat announcing their interrupts, it's this thing down here. It's announce interrupts, and you can use that for party, raid only, say, yell, whatever you want. And then over here, I love this. This is auto repair. So if you have a guild that does auto repairs, make sure you set it to guild. But if not, you can set it to yourself, but it's definitely super nice. Just quality of life, you're always repaired up when you visit a vendor, and you never have to worry about it. Moving on from there, we have fonts. So this is just going to change, like, you know, the fonts of nameplates and things of that nature, the general UI font. So I like it on Expressway, but you can definitely change it to whatever you like. So 2002 bold, you know, we can change whatever we like here as far as the font goes. A lot of times it will require a reload, so you might have to do that. Moving on, we have cosmetics. So you don't have a ton you need to touch here, but you know, you have a couple panels you can enable. So if you like the look of this panel up here, you can enable that. We have the bottom panel, which is enabled currently. We'll disable that. Moving on, you have Blizzard UI improvements. So this is just going to take things like the voice overlays and loop frames and things of that nature. And you can either use the ElvUI version of those things, or you can use the Blizzard version of those things. So that is totally up to you and fully customizable. You just select which ones you want or don't want, and it'll do that for you. Next, you have the totem tracker, which just keeps track of certain abilities. So let me see if I can show you here. With my concentrate, that's this thing down here. So that is the totem tracker. And then you have alternate power. So this will be for boss fights where, let's say you get an extra ability or charge up a power of some sort. This is going to show you that alternate power. So moving on, we have action bars next. And if you like the Blizzard action bars, you can actually disable this, and you can do like a hybrid of ElvUI and regular Blizzard UI. So I'll disable that. And then let me /reload. And as you can see, I now have the regular Blizzard bars. So if that's something that you like, you can definitely do that. I personally like the ElvUI bars, so we'll just enable those again. And there we go, we're back at it. So this basically, again, action bars controls all of your bars. So your player bars, and you have all these different options here. And you can have up to 15 bars here, right? And you can do whatever you want. So I'll enable a couple of these so you can kind of see them. We have 3 enabled already. We'll enable 5, 6, 7. All right. We won't do 7, I guess. So you can see all these bars here. And first thing we want to do, that's bar 1. Great. So the first thing I want to show you is how you can customize bars. So this is our bar 1 right here. And you can give it a backdrop if you want. So give it a little background. You can do mouse over, so it completely disappears, which I have for a couple like extra bars where I have things that I use like consumables and things of that nature, but I don't really want it showing on my screen during, you know, boss fights and things of that nature. I just want it to be easily accessible so I can click it without going into my bags. Then you have things like show empty buttons. So let's just say I took off this, all right? So if I turn off the backdrop and I remove the show buttons, you can see it disappears entirely. So I like to have that on personally. That's just me. I think it looks a little weird when you don't have the perfect amount of abilities to fit all your bars, and then you have these weird kind of gaps where you're just missing things. I think it looks a little jarring. You have all these options down here where you can increase the button size, the buttons per row, the spacing of the buttons, so you can always adjust the spacing if you want. I like to have that down at 0 personally. And then you have all sorts of good stuff down here. You have keybind text and count text, macro text, all this good stuff. Not a lot of this is super important. We're going to play around. I'll show you how to do keybinds and move everything around in a little bit, but you have that down there as well. But then moving on, you have your pet bar, your stance bar, your micro bar, and your extra buttons. And this is going to be the same thing. It's just fully customizable. Basically, everything you just saw in the player bars, you can do in these extra options as well. Moving on from there, we have bags. So this is what the ElvUI bags look like. If you don't like them, you can always disable this up here. They go back to the Blizzard bags. But again, fully customizable. This is going to be so you can change the color of it. The bag bar, which I have disabled right now, you know, you can have it set to vendor grays automatically, which I do like to do because usually that's just junk, right? It's not anything that can be sold or enchanted or used. It's usually just garbage. So sorting, you have like an auto sort feature. So you have sort bags up here and it'll do that for you. You can toggle your bags. You can set the vendor grays directly right here from the bags. And you can stack items, so it'll stack things up for you. So then we have buffs and debuffs. So this is going to be all of this good stuff up here. And by default, it's going to put it up in your top right corner by the minimap, just like Blizzard has. But you can do whatever you want with this. You can change the size of them again. You can change the spacing on them, vertical spacing, horizontal spacing, whatever you want. You can have them after so many. So let's say after 5, it starts the wrap and create another column. You can max that out so that there's only so many columns. There's all sorts of good stuff you can do. You could do different colors for your debuffs. So, you know, you could do red, which is the default for none, green for poison. They pretty much have it set up for you really, really well, in my opinion, already. But you can go around and play with all of these different things, the text. So then moving on from there, we have the chat option and tons of customizable options here. You can make it whether or not URL links are clickable. You can change the size of the chat, how fast you scroll through it. You can change the fonts, literally anything you want, the colors, every possible thing you could ever want, you're going to have in here. And then I'll show you, you can even do alerts where certain keywords are said and it will alert you with a sound in chat, which is super, super cool. And then we have panels here. So the panels are these things down here. And you can choose to have only certain ones on or off. Let's say I just want the left panel, so I turn the right one off. You can have things like this. So these things showing down here, I can have them above the chat or below the chat. And those are also fully customizable. You can change what shows down here and all of that good stuff from this option. So that is the chat panel. Next, we have the data bars panel, and this is going to be things like your experience, reputation, your honor, all that good stuff. It's going to be right here. So if you want to enable them, disable them, whatever, if you're already level 80, you probably don't need experience enabled, things of that nature, but you can always enable that while you're questing and things like that. Show quest XP, completed quests only. So you have all these different options down here where you can play around with it. You can show track quests only, all this good stuff. You can hide it in combat. Anything you want, again, fully customizable. It's all pretty much the same in ElvUI. Like once you get one panel down, like I said, you'll see here you have the mouse over, the click through. These were all things we saw in the action bars when we went over that. So while it may look like a lot and can be very daunting, once you master kind of one of these sections, it really applies to all of the others quite a bit. So then moving on from there, we have data text. And this is going to be great stuff. This kind of ties in with the chat. We can go to panels here. And I told you down here on the left, you can change all of these things. Let's just say I didn't want my DPS there and I wanted my armor instead. So I can change it and it will show me my armor or my resources or whatever I want it to show. So you can go and play around with that there in data text. Just a little bit niche, but some more customization. So next we have maps, and this is just going to be your map. So you have your world map, which you can enable or disable. You have your mini map, again, same idea. So I can get rid of it entirely. I would just have to reload the UI. I can change the scale of it and make it bigger or smaller. I can change the font text. So maybe I don't want Expressway. I want something like that. So I can change the text for it up there. So next we have nameplates, and you can choose to use a different add-on for nameplates or use the standard Blizzard nameplates. I personally do like the ElvUI nameplates, so I use them. So you can enable that or disable that up here. You can change it right here to stacking or overlapping. So stacking is going to make it so that you can click everything easily, but they may stack up kind of high, which may make them hard to see, so you might want to play around with that. Whereas overlapping is going to put them all where you can see them, but it might be a little hard to click the ones that you need. So I'm personally going to advise using the stacking nameplates and then just playing around with the overlap and things of that nature over here. That way, when you're looking at an enemy, let's say you have you're fighting a pack, let's say a Mythic Plus, or you have a raid boss that's very big, you don't really want the nameplate to be way up off of your screen. So I would play around with that inside of here to make sure that you can see them all, but I would highly advise the stacking nameplates. So you can do that. And you have all sorts of great options. Yet again, you can change the size of them, the text, the click-through, literally anything that you could possibly want is going to be here. Moving on from there, we have skins, which really is just an aesthetic as to how things are going to look on your screen. So let's just say the achievements here, for example. So for achievements, we have this enabled or disabled, the Blizzard skin. So if I disable that and then reload the UI, so now our UI is reloaded, and as you can see here, the skin has changed. So that is totally up to you, just an aesthetic choice, whether you want the ElvUI skin or you want the Blizzard skin. So totally up to you. From there, we have the tooltip option. So I definitely advise having this enabled. This will be what you see to the right of my screen when I hover over something right now. So I'm hovering over myself and you see me there, Zwinkle Toes, and it shows my, all my information, my raid, my keys, all that good stuff. That is going to be your tooltip. So whether you're hovering over an item, so let's just say I hover over this, you can see there it's going to show the reigns of the Sareki Skyraiser, and it's going to tell you, the little bit about it. So that is the tooltip. And it's really useful too, because as you can see here, it will actually show you the spell ID as well. So if you ever need spell IDs for things of that nature, you can hover over literally anything and it will give you the spell ID for it. So any of my abilities here, it'll tell me here on my tooltip the spell ID and what the ability does. So you can play around with that entirely. You can, again, you can change where it's at. You can move it around, change what it shows. Anything you want is going to be right here, but that is what your tooltip is. And moving on from there, we have unit frames. So unit frames are going to be exactly what it says, all of your unit frames. So let's go over here to individual unit frames. And again, like I said earlier, once you kind of master one little bit of this, it applies to all of it. So I know this looks daunting and it looks like a lot, but it's really not. So we'll go to individual units and we're at player right now. So you can choose to enable or disable this. And as you see, my player frame goes away. So that's just to show you what a player frame actually is, or what a unit frame is. So you have all sorts of great options here. You can change the aura bars, you can change the buffs so that the buffs show above you or off of you. Anything you want is going to be here. Class bar, so as you see, my holy power is right here. I can get rid of that. I can enable it or disable it. You can have your name show and show where you want it. So you have basically this subsection here. So unit frames into, whatever you want. And then you have this last section over here where you can fully customize everything possible. So you can go to your target, and here's my target here right now. Let's just say I want to disable that. As you see, it's gone again. But this is where you're going to find all of those things. So like your focus target, any of those things that you want, this is where you're going to find it. It's going to be up here in the unit frame. So we can go to group units, which we'll go over. And this is where you're going to find things like your raid, your party frames, all of that good stuff. So you can go ahead and adjust it. So whether or not you want it to be horizontal or come out from the left, the right, whatever you want, you can go ahead and adjust it up in here. So you have multiple raid options, all that good stuff. You have visibility commands you can input in if you want to fully customize it even further. All this great stuff is in here. So there's just a couple more things I want to show you guys here. One of them is going to be how to move everything on your UI. So, you're trying to customize it and get it how you want it to look. And big part of that, obviously, is moving things around. So when you're in ElvUI, in the general tab, you can go over to movers. and it will show you literally every last thing you have on your UI. So whether or not you want to get rid of things or move things, you have your raid frames there, for example, your party frames. I can move my player frames around and my target frames. I can move everything around any way I want it to fully customize it out. The next thing I want to show you is going to be how to keybind your abilities. So there are other add-ons and things that do this for you, but thankfully, ElvUI also does it. So what you can do is go to action bars, which I showed you earlier, and you can go right over here at the top and go to keybind mode. And what you can do is go over your abilities. So let's just say I don't want R to be that ability. I would hit escape and it gets rid of it. And then I can fill it with whatever I want. So I do want R, I'll put R, and there it is. You go ahead and hit save, and that will keybind your abilities for you. So I do want to show you guys real quick how profiles are saved and then how you can back it up without needing an external drive. So if you're like me, if you've ever lost your profile before, you probably looked it up and it said, you know, get an external drive and back the profile up to it. And if you were like me when I first started playing this game, not only did I not have an external drive, I really didn't even know much about computers or know how to do that. So this is essentially how I did it, because I've lost my profile. It takes a really long time to play around with it and customize it back out again. And that's only really if you remember what you did in the first place and you're kind of well versed with ElvUI. So what you can do here is, first and foremost, profiles are automatically saved for you. When you go to create a profile, like I showed you earlier, you could type in whatever you want the profile to be. It will set it to default, and then you would customize it out, right? And then you would have all of your existing profiles down over here. But what about if you want to export it? So you can go over here to export, hit the export button right here, and it will give you your ElvUI profile. So what you're going to do is highlight it and copy it. And then what you can actually do is just take something simple, and then something that everybody has. If you have a computer, you can open your notepad up. Just the simple notepad that comes on pretty much every computer. You can do a Word document, any text document, anything of that nature, and you would just go ahead and Control V, and we pasted it over. So now that you have it, you can save it as whatever you want, put it wherever you want it, but now you have it backed up. So if you ever lose your profile, you would just simply go to that document, copy and paste it over, go to import here, paste, and you're back in action. That is going to wrap it up for today, though, guys. If you have any questions or want some more details as to how to fine-tune something or work on something a little niche that maybe I didn't talk about, go ahead and drop a comment down below. I will definitely get back to you and kind of help you along with that process. Again, if you did want my profile, it is linked in the description down below. But I appreciate you guys, and I'll see you next time.